Hello, welcome to another episode of Leaving the Lies, Speaking Your Truth. We are in episode number 7 entitled How Cults Work. Melody and I today will be giving the ins and outs of cult life so that you can understand a little bit better what they're thinking, how they even got in, and what takes place while they're there. I would like to remind you that we do have a YouTube page. It is called Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. We would like for you to subscribe, share, and follow us. The more that people know, the better it is for those that are stuck in the cult situation. How are you today, Mel?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. You look fabulous.
So do you.
Why, thank you. I wore a special t-shirt today. It says, I love God, but some of his children get on my nerves. I thought it was appropriate for today.
That's pretty funny.
I would like to remind everybody as we are doing this and you leave any questions in the comments that we are about positivity, we are about uplifting, and we are about helping. We are not about the negativity or attacking. Those comments or anything like that will be taken down immediately. Okay? So the authors of source that were used in these facts that we were found today are Robert J. Lifton, Julia Layton, Glenn Collins, Michael Langone, and Matt Davis. These were the authors that were used in the sources that were found today. And I'm going to go ahead right now. All this research stuff, all this technical stuff was put together by Melody, not me. Okay? We have decided I'm the chaos of this group.
Hey, I did my little chaos thing, forgetting to send you an invite to come to the meeting, so.
And everybody keep in mind I didn't start until 7 o'clock this morning. Okay. Definition of a cult. Usually, but not always, an unestablished group, anywhere from a handful to hundreds of members. The teachings tend to
Deviate. Sorry.
Hold on. No.
Did you lose it?
My screen. Okay.
Got it?
Deviate, it was popping in and out. Technical difficulty, told you, chaos side.
Okay.
Deviate from most mainstream religions. And the group is usually controlled by a single charismatic. Go ahead, Melody, because you know what the
charismatic
leader. The leader usually is believed to have some type of holy status or connection to God. In most cases, a cult will expect a complete commitment from its members. A mainstream church will usually operate within the normalities of society. A cult will usually require isolation or separation. Isolation from the world, not going shopping, not going to movies, not going to family dinners, or actual separation from your family and friends and actual workplaces. The leader usually has an abnormal ability to get people to follow him or her without questioning. The members tend to be devoted to the leader more than the actual teaching. And this is actually very important that they do that, because if they're so devoted to the leader and not to the teaching, they won't question the teaching as easily. The teaching will usually change within the whims of the leader, and most members will accept the new ideas easily. However, there are the ones that do not accept and they question, and what takes place is they are either ostracized or they are guilted with other things that have taken place or with their own insecurities until they agree with the teachings. The morality and the integrity of any given cult usually depends on the leader, since most decisions in cults are made by one leader.
Okay, the next section we're going to cover is who joins cults. There is a stereotypical belief out there that most people that join cults, some have some sort of mental illness, but actually the truth is very normal people join cults. They're usually somebody you know, a friend, a neighbor, a family member, parent, a child. cults don't really intend or seek out or want unstable, unpredictable members because it actually reflects on them. And they also need people in the organization that can work and are able to help grow and support the organization. And extremely unstable people can't really provide that service.
Exactly.
People, they tend to find people that are looking for a sense of belonging, that they want to be part of a group, or it might be somebody who doesn't feel like they really fit into mainstream society. They tend to seek out people that feel a little bit unhappy in the status quo of their life. They may feel like they agree with the idea, they don't agree with the ideas of their culture, and they're seeking to make changes in the world. They may have a desire to feel a need for feeling important or having some type of higher purpose. They tend to look for people that believe that everyone is good, inherently good, maybe have a little bit of that naive belief, just because those people are a little bit more likely to get sucked into a cult mentality. Autumn and I are both going to speak a little bit here on some of our personal experiences of how we got into the cult or how our family members brought us into the cult, because we were both brought in by our parents. So I'm going to have you go ahead and go first, Autumn.
So what had taken place was that my cousins were involved in it. We pause there for a minute and go back to when I was in 5th grade. Hazel actually was in contact with the Worldwide Church of God. And because they did not have the proper name, she did not want to join that religion. So when my cousins got involved in the House of Yahweh and she found out about it and they used the names and all of that, she wanted to be a part of that. She wanted to go there because it had the Sabbath, it had the feast, it had that Christmas was not to be celebrated, it had the name, it had the way that they prayed, which was what she had known and studied on her own. So that's why she went, because she felt she was going to better us, her family, if she brought us to it.
Now,
What about
actually, my story is a little bit similar. My dad also did read a lot of literature from the Worldwide Church of God before we joined the House of Yahweh, although we did not know about the name of the Creator being Yahweh until we were in or part of the group. But I would say that my dad was probably a person who really didn't fit into mainstream society and was not happy with the culture or the way the world worked or was going, and he was seeking to make changes in the world and in himself. And I think that there was a combination certainly for him, and I probably a little bit of that higher purpose stuff too is probably part of what brought him there as well.
Right. So. Now, this is actually how they get members. Most people who join are good people seeking some sort of knowledge or spiritual answers. The case of Hazel. They usually look for people who are vulnerable and maybe going through a stressful period in their life. Members are not aware of the true nature or the intentions of the group in the beginning. When you first join, you only see the best, most normal parts of the group. The manipulation and the deception is a slow process, and you're usually deep in the group before you see the real danger. Melody, I was thinking this as I had read it the first time, and as I was reading it with you this morning and reading it now, this is literally the acts of grooming of what abusers, sexual abusers, physical abusers do. This is actually also their way of grooming their victims.
Absolutely. And actually in doing some of my studies that I've done on cults and stuff, there are people that talk about the similarities between abusive relationships and abusive groups like cults.
So that leads to the question that I have. I know we didn't discuss this part. Do you think that is possibly why there is so much physical, mental, and sexual abuse in cults, because they have been trained to be groomers?
I think it certainly could lead to that, or certainly there's some type of correlation there. Exactly If it causes it, I don't know, but it is possible that abusers may be more likely to be attracted to be in a cult for that reason.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's start with number one of what their actual tactics are for getting them to be members. Love bombing. This term was originally started by the Moonies. If you don't know who the Moonies are, I encourage you to Google the Moonies, Moonies. Flooding new members with affection and attention. They might use flattery, make you feel special, make you feel unique. I remember when I first started, Yishwal would go from table to table, to tent. Elders would come up and be very welcoming. You felt like you were somebody important. He knew your first name.
Actually, I have a little story about that too. He told my dad at one point that he had this little book where he wrote everybody who was in the book of life, and that he told my dad his name was in that book. And I remember when we left our first feast, my dad was like, he said my name was in the book of life, and that made my dad feel really special because he had told him that.
Wow. Getting new recruits to go on retreats, a Bible study, a feast, a seminar. These usually last a few days so they can begin the indoctrination process.
And what a feast does, or whatever, it may be a Bible study or a seminar of some sort or a retreat, but in our case, it was a feast, and it really actually does give you an unrealistic presentation of the group. And at the end of it, you don't want to leave. You're like, oh, these people are just so nice, and it's so wonderful here, and it's like this utopia. And but the thing is that when you're from out of town or you're a new member, you're only seeing what they want you to see when you first come in. You're only seeing what they present, and you're not allowed at that point in time. You don't see the inner layers of that organization until you dive deeper into it.
Absolutely. They may look for people that are either gullible or unassertive. It is so easy to take great advantage of somebody gullible. I don't know if it's gullible or just trusting, somebody who's just very trusting. And if you're unassertive, you're going to do whatever it takes, a people pleaser. It's going to do whatever it takes to make somebody else happy. Prefer people that tend to think in black and white terms, and that they like questions that are answered quickly and easily with no questions, no concern, just, oh, okay, thanks. Sometimes you are encouraged by someone you know, a close friend, a family member. For me, it was family. Our cousin, well, it was one set of cousins led another set of cousins that led another set of cousins that led us. Some cults use chanting, meditation, or drugs to make you more vulnerable to suggestion.
Okay, now I don't think that we had a lot of that in our cult personally. I think the closest thing may have been Seder dinner, a little bit of like chanting together or saying all the words together, but I really didn't feel like that was chanting or really fell along those lines. But I do know, not when I was there, but apparently before you left, and there are some other members that I've heard this from, that they did start encouraging people to listen to the sermon tapes and play them at night while they were sleeping and put them on repeat. And the one person who shared that with me said that it actually caused her to have nightmares, and she had to stop doing it because it was causing her to have awful dreams.
That doesn't surprise me because he often spoke of brimstone and hellfire.
True.
So, and it's usually truth mixed in with lies. And when I speak about Hazel knew of the Sabbath. She knew of the feast. She knew the name Yahweh. So that was an instant hook for her. And it wasn't for, she didn't live there until the very end. So she really didn't get to see all the ins and outs until she really moved there.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next section, and that is how do they keep members and why it can be difficult to leave. First and foremost, people usually stay out of fear. Autumn actually made a really good point, and it was so important that I moved it to the top of the list when she mentioned that this morning. They have been conditioned to fear not only the outside world, but also eternal damnation. They also fear being rejected by not only those in the group, but not being able to be accepted by family members or society as a whole after they leave.
And
Which,
for me, I'm sorry,
oh
Mel.
no, go ahead.
And for me, this was one of the biggest things for me. I have a whole network of family outside of the house, and they've asked, "Why didn't you call us?"
Yep.
Because I, what were you gonna say?
Well, and you're conditioned when you're there to believe that they won't accept you back.
Exactly,
That you're going to face more rejection.
exactly,
And that leads actually right on to our next one, which is the social isolation, which is they encourage you to disconnect from your family and friends who are not part of the group. Anyone that's not in the group is considered to be dangerous, and the group tends to become your family. In some cases, you even get isolated within the group as forms of punishment. If you leave, you believe that if you leave, bad things are going to happen to you. And that can be anywhere from anything from fearing tribulations, the end of the world, like doomsday cults. It can be fear of having something bad happen to your health, being in an accident, your husband will leave you, your children would become rebellious, and in extreme cases, it would be going to hell or just plain dying. And it's not safe to question the leader or the teachings. You have fear of being punished or ostracized if you start questioning. They create an environment where tattletaling, for lack of a better term, is encouraged and even in some cases rewarded. And that the reward could be something, like you'll be considered to be a deaconess or a deacon because you've told on your friend or your neighbor about the fact that they maybe ate some pork or something. I mean, that's just an example. And they
it could also
create.
be just as, I'm sorry, it could
Oh,
also be
okay.
just as little as the pastor inviting you into his office and sharing a drink with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And making it seem like it's innocent conversation, but he's really fishing
Yes,
for information.
yes,
Um, and then they create a world of abnormal dependency, not only upon the leader, but upon the group itself. Meaning you start to depend on the group for every aspect of your life financially, the friends, family, your spirituality, shelter, food, even your basic needs start to become dependent upon the group. Um,
absolutely.
they also tend to control your information. They discourage watching TV or listening to a radio, reading a book or a newspaper, using the internet, or going to social gatherings and participating in things outside of the group. They will encourage members to read only their propaganda or their Bible. In our case, they had their own Bible. And you're only supposed to ask questions to group members that are in authority, meaning you're not supposed to get any outside sources or opinions. So all of your information is only coming from the group. In the beginning, when we went to the house of Yahweh, we were encouraged to study the Bible and study on your own and try to learn, keep yourself informed. And by the time, probably about a year before we left, I remember there was a feast when actually Yedidia told my dad, "Oh, don't go studying on your own now. Don't do that. You need to just be reading the booklets and the books. Get as many of the propaganda, get all the stuff you can before you leave here for the feast, and bring it home with you. And that's the only stuff you should really be studying. And if you have any questions, you should only come to me for answers. And if I can't get the answer to you, then I'll go to pastor and I'll get the answer." So it changed, it progressed, because that was not what was taught when we first started there. They break down your sense of self very systematically, meaning you don't even realize it's happening. And then it comes to the point where you don't know how to function mentally without the group. They use fear of being shunned or excommunicated. This can be especially difficult if you have family members that are inside the group or even close friends, because really the group becomes your family, even if your family's not there, especially if you've been there for a long period of time, years. That is your family. And you tend to no longer have connections or communicate with people in the outside world because you've already disconnected from them. So it's hard to imagine how you would function outside of that, because you can't really relate to that because you've been in the group and only related to people in the group for so long. Another tactic they use is mental and emotional blackmail. You're made to feel worthless, guilty, devalued, especially if you go against or start questioning the teachings. Or if you go against a rule or a law within the group. In our case, it was laws. Any doubts are used against you. You're made to feel wrong or evil if you start questioning things, like something's wrong with you. The punishment can be mental, physical, or both. Usually, once a member admits that they were wrong, they are then rewarded by being accepted back into the group. And this imbalance of praise and punishment can create an immense amount of self-doubt within the member, creating an atmosphere of fear of upsetting the leader or the group as a whole. And
for me personally, how this took place was once I started questioning, why do you get to have a second wife? Why do you get to spend so much time with the second wife? Why are you not taking care of things that need to be taken care of the house? Where are you? Why are you, basically not taking care of me? The first time my daughter was taken from me, Sarah Beth, overnight, sent to another elder's wife's house. When my son was born, he was immediately taken from me because I was a rebellious woman who asked too many questions. So I just learned to keep my mouth shut and be acceptant of it to the best of my ability. It didn't always work out for me, but I tried. But they are very extreme, but under the cover in what they do.
absolutely. And they tend to have extreme control over your daily schedule. You might be overworked and sleep deprived, so you really can't think straight, and you actually don't have time to think or question the teachings because you're exhausted.
Right.
You also, when you submit to the teachings, especially one that you might be having doubts about, you might be rewarded with gifts, special privileges, or advanced titles. And we talked about that in another episode too, where you might be considered to be casted lots for becoming an elder, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They also create an us versus them mentality, where you might be taught that the group is special and saved, and meaning that if you leave, you will go to hell and you will no longer be part of the saved people. You tend to take on a new identity when you become part of a group, where you almost operate like a robot or a zombie. Now, I say that, and most people will literally picture a robot or a zombie, which that may happen in some cults. It certainly didn't happen in ours, where it was obvious. It was really more in your mind you were behaving that way because you'd been so conditioned with fear, and in order to even just for self-preservation, to not deal with the fear and the anxieties, you kind of just get into an autopilot mode where, okay, I just need to go to work, be quiet, do what I'm supposed to do, and this is what makes me righteous. If I just follow the rules, you just try to keep following the rules, and in your mind, you're almost just on an autopilot. It really is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. Just to get through life.
Yes.
Can you still hear me, Mel?
Yep, I can hear you fine.
I'm sorry. It's so funny. A lot of people have texted me, but I'm just getting phone call after phone call after phone call, and I'm like, yeah.
No, we're still good. I saw you
Okay.
doing something with your phone. I didn't realize that's what you were doing.
I was trying to get them to stop. Okay, warning signs you or someone you know is in a cult. It is thought that there are over 10,000 cults in the U.S. alone. 10,000 cults in the U.S. alone. People are susceptible to the manipulation tactics used to recruit cult members are those that are emotionally vulnerable. I'm going to tell you right now, that whole sentence was a tongue tire because Melody is a brilliant mind. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to read it very slowly. People most susceptible to the manipulation tactics used to recruit cult members are those that are emotionally vulnerable, those seeking answers to spiritual questions, people who are under a lot of stress, those going through life transitions, a new town, or a loss of a loved one, or a loss of a job. It is not easy to get someone to leave a cult, but the first step is keeping lines of communication open. This usually requires you to not be too critical of the group. And you might force the communication, or you might force the communication to stop. This isn't easy as it sounds. It takes a lot of self-control, balance, and moderation. What I would like to add to that is when, even though they do begin to question or show doubt or say things that will give you hope, even then, don't jump on it. Just be, I'm here for you. I'm listening to you. My door is always opened to you. You are a good person. You are loved. You are wanted. Your self-value is worth so much. These are words that you can continually say to them because their brain has been washed, correct, Melody? Which we will say
Yep.
with dirt. So with negative, we can say the negativity is dirt.
Right.
Well, when we come along with our positive words that we have to continually and constantly, most likely for years. Poor Philip, 21 years later, is still having to be positive with me. Then we're having to rewash the brain with positivity. And it may get tedious. It may get frustrating. You may just want to shake them and say, already leave. But you cannot do that because they have also been told they will lie to you. They are manipulating you. Talking about the outside world. They are only out for themselves. They are only using you. See, when you give a little bit of doubt, they're going to jump on you and tell you what's wrong with you. So
Yep.
so you kind of have to fight fire with fire, negative with positivity. And for the most part, wait for your family member or your friends to start expressing doubts to you. Now, this could take years, years. And even once you're able to start washing, it could still take years, but never, ever, ever stop being there with the positive.
Absolutely.
Ever.
And again, this is another thing that really relates to being an abusive relationship. It has a lot of parallels, a lot of mirroring to an abusive relationship. You want to do the same thing if you know of somebody that's in an abusive relationship. You want to also keep those lines of communication open and keep that positivity there. Even if it seems hopeless, you want to try to keep that open for them.
Absolutely. And Melody, you saying that makes me think not only are probably the majority, I wouldn't say the majority, let's say half of the people there in a manipulating cult setting, their marriage, their parents, their whatever is an abusive situation
It's
with inside an
layers,
abuse.
layers of
Yes.
abuse. Yes.
Yes. So you're dealing with, layer, literally peeling back layers of an onion.
Yep.
So it is very important that if you think, oh, why did you stay? Never say that
Yep.
because you're building on to the abuse that they're already taking
Absolutely.
on. They, when you know somebody, they're being pressured by the cult to make quick decisions, quick decisions. We need $30,000 to buy this. Are you in or out? Because if you're out, then you're going to hell. Quick decisions. Members can be exploited in several different ways, whether it be financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, and yes, even sexually. They can be exploited and abused in these ways and in such a way that is just so cunning and just so slick. They don't even know it until they already given them all of their money or performed a sexual act or been told how stupid they are so many times that they can blackmail you if you've done a sexual act. They can blackmail you if you've done something financially for them. The leader will usually claim to have special insight powers or some kind of divine authority, possibly even claiming to be God or the Messiah. The ability to predict the future or make prophecies. My suggestion to those that may be in a cult right now, here's just a thought. I know you're scared, but I also know your mind is ticking. Tick, 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 tick. Count how many times they have prophesied something. Count how many times. Now, count how many times it has come true. And I just want to kind of add this part, Melody.
Absolutely.
In most cults, you're reading Bibles. So if you're reading the Holy Scriptures, you're reading the Bible, how many times did the Messiah make a prophecy? Or God go to somebody and state a prophecy? And how many times did that come true? Once you come up with those answers, sit back and let your mind tick a little bit more, okay? Doesn't make you stupid. It just begin to question the little things. Little things can add to big things. Okay, yep. Guys? Deceptive means to gain members, making promises or even lying. Usually some type of thought reform or discouragement of critical thinking. In other words, if you think to yourself, well, how many times have you prophesied and it hasn't come true? What? Why would you say that? Who would teach you to say that or ask that question? They tend to be shrouded in secrecy. Here's the thing. If you're a mother, if you're a parent, if you're an aunt, if you've known children of any kind, you don't want them to ever keep secrets. True or false? Right?
True.
So if somebody's asking you to keep a secret,
red
that's
flag.
This large scaled, should you keep the secret? Probably not.
Red flag. Be looking
for
the red flag.
The beliefs or teachings seem strange or extreme to the outside world. Encouraged to disconnect from friends and family who are not in the group. Number one sign of an abuser. Separates you from your loved ones. Being kept so busy in that group that you don't have the time or the energy to think or question the teachings. Let me just say this, your children or your spouse should be the only one that keeps you that busy or that out of energy. Being told what to eat, what to wear, when to sleep, and how to raise your children. We've been there, Mel.
Oh, yeah. Or even what to name your children.
Yeah, very true. Demanding for following the teachings without question. Never question, never ask. Just do, just do, just do. Inside, there is or special language that is only understood by the group. Discussed in depth in episodes 5 and 6. So if you go back to episodes 5 and 6, we discussed this in depth, what the special words or the inside language was for us. Milieu control. It's a special language within a group, usually serving to create more isolation from the world. Because think about it, in this day and age, if you speak different, if you look different, if you act different, you're made fun of, and people typically don't want to be around that. So it's just yet another ploy to keep you with them. They make a demand of purity. A demand that your body be pure, that the food you eat be pure, that your mind be pure, that your house be pure. And this all leads back up to what we were saying before. They tell you what to eat, drink, speak, and wear. And they hide it under the curtain of it's for purity reasons.
Absolutely.
Well, honey, ain't nobody wanted to look at my knees before, and they don't want to look at them now. So if my shorts are a little bit above my knee or a little bit below my knee, it's quite all right. confessions, either in private or in public. And typically, why they do this, though, is so that they can have your confessions and say you confess to having an affair on your wife. They can come to you and say, you know what, because you had an affair on your wife, if you don't go do this, I'm going to go tell your wife.
Yep.
The leader and the teaching is above criticism. No matter what, they are never wrong. It is always your fault. Another red flag.
Absolutely.
Your own thoughts, ideas, or experiences are to be denied if they do not fall in line with the teaching of the group. Punishment. The group believes that it has the authority to decide who should exist and who should not. Those outside the group are not saved or elated.
Okay, we actually are probably going to have to do another episode here because we're at 35 minutes. So we have a few. We're not done because there's going to be a part 2, but I didn't get my little notification. I was hoping Zoom would tell me they're going to let me go over 45 minutes again, but they didn't. So I guess we're going to close here, but we're not done. Definitely come and listen to episode 2. We're going to be, I think, do you want to record it right now? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in closing, I'm just going to say thank you to Autumn and everyone else for joining. Again, please go like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page, which is Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. We're looking for more people to interview. So if you're out there and you're watching and you were in the House of Yahweh, we'd love to talk to you. Either private message Autumn or myself. If you're not friends with us, leave us a message on the group and we'll get in contact with you. So for now, we're going to close off this part 1 of how cults work, and we'll be back with part 2 very shortly. Thank you.
Bye.